In a mansion full of secrets, Zara faces a ticking clock as her father prepares to marry a woman she knows isn't what she seems. After her mother's death, Zara suspects her father's charming fiancée, Angela, is hiding something dark, a truth that could destroy their family's legacy. As the wedding day approaches, Zara uncovers shocking evidence of deception, betrayal, and a hidden fortune. But can she stop the wedding in time? Black Girl crashes. Her dad's wedding is a thrilling tale of love, loyalty, and the fight to protect what truly matters. Don't miss this captivating story. The house was quiet that evening. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees surrounding the estate, and faint city lights glimmered in the distance. Inside, Zara sat in her room, staring at a photo of her mother. The picture was slightly worn around the edges, a testament to how often she had held it in her hands. Her mother's eyes, warm and kind, stared back at her, reminding Zara of the love that once filled their home. Since her mother's passing 2 years ago, that warmth had faded, replaced by a silence that Zara couldn't quite understand. Her father, Raymond, had been devastated by the loss. They both had. But where Zara had found strength in moving forward, keeping her mother's memory alive, Raymond had withdrawn, becoming a shadow of the man he once was. Zara had tried to be there for him, but she couldn't fill the void her mother had left behind. And then Angela came into their lives. Zara stood by the large window in her room, gazing down at the garden below where her father and Angela were walking. They looked happy, or at least her father did. Angela's laugh rang out, a sound that felt false to Zara's ears. She had never trusted Angela, not since the day they met. There was something too perfect, too rehearsed about her, and her sudden interest in her father after such a short courtship had set off alarms in Zara's mind. But Raymond, ever the optimist, had been smitten. For weeks now, Zara had noticed Angela's growing interest in the family estate, specifically the painting that hung in the drawing room, a painting her mother had always said held significance to their family. And Angela's behavior was becoming more suspicious by the day. It wasn't just that Angela had asked her father about his will. No, it was deeper than that. Zara had overheard late-night phone calls and seen Angela lingering too long in front of the painting, almost as if she was waiting for it to reveal something. Zara knew something was wrong, but convincing her father, who was blinded by love, would be no easy task. Raymond, for his part, adored Zara. She was his pride and joy, the one constant in his life after his wife's death. But he also felt guilty that he hadn't been there for her the way he should have been. He had retreated into himself, into his grief, and in doing so he had left Zara to fend for herself. When Angela had entered his life, she had brought with her a sense of purpose, of companionship, that Raymond hadn't realized he'd been missing. He was lonely, and Angela had filled that void. But as the wedding approached, he noticed the growing tension between Zara and Angela. Zara, always so sweet and understanding, had become distant, cold even. She barely spoke to Angela, and when she did, it was curt, almost dismissive. Raymond had tried to talk to Zara about it, but each time he brought it up, she would deflect, telling him she was fine. But he could see the hurt in her eyes. What he didn't know was that Zara was hurting not just because of Angela, but because she felt like she was losing her father. The man who had once been her protector, her rock, was slipping away from her. And the more she tried to pull him back, the more he seemed to drift towards Angela. Angela was perfect, or so it seemed. She was beautiful, poised, and had a way of making everyone around her feel at ease. She had entered Raymond's life unexpectedly, during a charity event he had attended months ago. She had been working for a non-profit, or so she said, and their paths had crossed in the most serendipitous way. But Zara had always believed there was no such thing as coincidence. Angela was too perfect, too accommodating, too attentive. And Zara had noticed the subtle manipulations, how Angela would sweetly suggest things to Raymond, making them seem like his ideas, how she would steer conversations towards topics like the family estate, Raymond's investments, and most notably the painting in the drawing room. There was something about that painting that seemed to hold Angela's attention. It was an old portrait of a woman from their family's distant past, her dark eyes staring out from the canvas as if she knew the secrets the house kept. Zara had never thought much about it, but her mother had always been protective of it. Now, with Angela's growing obsession, Zara was beginning to see that the painting was more than just a piece of art. It was a key to something much bigger. The week leading up to the wedding, Zara's unease grew. Angela had become more brazen in her actions, spending hours in the drawing room staring at the painting as if willing it to reveal its secrets. Zara had caught her once, standing too close, her fingers tracing the edge of the frame. When Zara had asked her what she was doing, Angela had smiled, that perfect smile, and said she was just admiring the family history. But Zara wasn't convinced. Later that night, Zara overheard Angela on the phone. Her voice was low, but the urgency in her tone was unmistakable. "I told you, it's almost done," Angela whispered, her back turned to the doorway where Zara stood silently. "The wedding is this weekend, and after that, it's only a matter of time. The painting is the key, I'm sure of it." Zara's heart raced. What was Angela talking about? What did the painting have to do with the wedding? Zara couldn't sit idly by anymore. She had to find out what Angela was after. That night, she called Evan, her childhood friend, who had always had a passion for history and archaeology. Evan had spent years studying artifacts and had a deep knowledge of art, particularly historical pieces like the painting in her home. Evan agreed to meet Zara the next morning at the mansion. Together, they began to dig through the family's history, searching for any mention of the painting or its significance. In the library, buried under old books and journals, they found it, a letter written by Zara's great-great-grandfather to his son. The letter was cryptic, but it spoke of the painting as a key to the future and a window to the past. It mentioned a legacy, something that had been passed down through the generations, hidden in plain sight. Zara's mother had known about it, and now Angela did too. But what was this legacy? As they continued their research, Evan uncovered something even more shocking. Angela wasn't who she claimed to be. Her real name wasn't even Angela. She had changed her name multiple times over the years, and her past was filled with mysterious marriages, each one ending with the sudden death of her husband. Each time, she had inherited their fortunes. Armed with this new information, Zara knew she had to act fast. She couldn't let her father go through with the wedding. But how could she convince him? He was so deeply infatuated with Angela that he would never believe her without solid proof. Evan suggested they confront Angela directly, using the evidence they had gathered to force her hand. But Zara wasn't sure. Angela was dangerous, that much was clear, and confronting her could put her father in even more danger. As the wedding day approached, Zara's anxiety grew. She had to find a way to stop the wedding without putting her father at risk. And then it hit her. She didn't need to stop the wedding. She needed to stop Angela. On the night before the wedding, Zara and Evan made their way to the drawing room. Using a special light that Evan had brought with him, they examined the painting more closely. What they found left them both speechless. Beneath the surface of the painting, hidden in the layers of oil and varnish, were faint markings, coordinates that led to a location on the estate. The painting wasn't just a portrait, it was a map, and the location it pointed to was an old storage room in the basement, a room that had been sealed off for decades. With their hearts pounding, Zara and Evan made their way to the basement. The air was thick with dust, and the door to the storage room creaked loudly as they pushed it open. Inside, they found boxes of old family documents, but it was the chest in the corner that caught their attention. Inside, the chest was a collection of letters and deeds, documents that detailed the family's ownership of vast lands and properties, some of which were now worth a fortune. This was the legacy that Angela had been after, the treasure hidden in plain sight. But there was something else in the chest, a letter from Zara's mother, addressed to her. It had been written just before her death. "My dearest Zara," the letter began, "there are things you need to know, things I never had the chance to tell you. Our family's legacy is not in wealth or land, but in the love we share. The painting is a reminder of that. A reminder that no matter what happens, our family's strength comes from within." Zara's eyes filled with tears as she read her mother's words. This was what Angela had been after, not just the wealth, but the very heart of their family's legacy. With the truth in hand, Zara knew what she had to do. The morning of the wedding, just hours before the ceremony, she found Angela in the drawing room, standing once again in front of the painting. "It's over," Zara said, her voice steady. Angela turned, her eyes cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." Zara stepped forward, holding up the documents they had found. "I know what you're after. The painting, the land, the inheritance. I know about your past, your other marriages, your lies. It's over, Angela." For a moment, Angela's mask slipped. Her face hardened, and the sweetness that she had always displayed vanished. "You don't know anything," Angela hissed. "You think you can stop me? You're just a child, playing with things you don't understand." "I'm not a child," Zara replied, "and I'm not letting you hurt my father." Angela's eyes flicked to the door, calculating her next move. But Zara wasn't going to give her the chance. Before Angela could react, Zara called out for her father. Raymond entered the room, confusion etched on his face. "What's going on?" Zara turned to him, her heart breaking as she prepared to tell him the truth. "Dad, I'm sorry, but Angela isn't who she says she is. She's been lying to you, to all of us. She's after the family's legacy, not you." Raymond looked between his daughter and his fiancée, disbelief and confusion warring on his face. "What are you talking about?" Zara handed him the documents, her voice shaking. "Read this. It's all here." As Raymond read through the papers, the color drained from his face. The realization of what was happening hit him like a ton of bricks. He had been duped, manipulated by the woman he thought he loved. Angela, seeing the situation slipping out of her control, tried one last time to regain her grip. "Raymond, don't listen to her. She's just upset. She doesn't understand." But Raymond cut her off, his voice low and filled with hurt. "Enough, Angela. I trusted you. I loved you. But Zara, she's my daughter. She's the only one who's ever truly had my best interests at heart." The wedding was off. After Angela was gone, Zara and her father sat together in the drawing room, the weight of the past few days heavy on their shoulders. The painting, which had once seemed like just another piece of the estate, now held so much more meaning. "It wasn't about the money," Zara said quietly, looking at the portrait. "It was never about that." Raymond nodded, his eyes filled with regret and understanding. Your mother always said that painting was important, but I never knew why." Zara smiled, tears welling in her eyes. "I think I do now. It's not just about the land or the inheritance. It's about us, about our family, the love we share, the strength we have together." In the days that followed, Zara and her father worked together to rebuild what had been broken. The experience had brought them closer than they had been in years, and Raymond finally realized just how much he had leaned on others instead of trusting in his daughter. As for the estate, the legacy that Angela had tried to steal, it remained intact, not just in wealth but in the memories and love that Zara and her father would carry forward. In the end, it wasn't the material riches that mattered. It was the bond between father and daughter, the love that had survived loss, manipulation, and betrayal. And that was a legacy worth protecting,